My name is Spencer Higa, and you're listening to the Drop Jaw Flies podcast.
Boom!
Well, I used to worm dunk, but I graduated from that.
I'm Lance Egan, and I forgot what I was supposed to say.
That guy's got everything on his face that you want to shave off. Just stick him solid.
Welcome to the Drop Jaw Flies podcast, your source for fly fishing talk, tips, and stories. In this episode, Jason and I are in fly fishing mecca Twin Bridges, Montana, home to world-class river fishing and fly rod manufacturer R.L. Winston Rod Company. Jason and I meet up with our friend and local guide Art Lasinick and head over to Winston for a tour and visit. We see firsthand the attention to detail and the quality craftsmanship in their rod builds. And Jason, Art, and myself are all extremely impressed. We talk about Boron, what it is, and why Winston builds it into their rods. We also get an update on some new and exciting developments with the R.L. Winston Rod Company. We hope you enjoy our podcast. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, and our YouTube channel. I'm Chad Nelson along with my co-host, Jason Arvey. Here is today's podcast. All right, guys, we are here at the awesome Winston Rod Company in Twin Bridges, Montana. So this is Jeff, Sales and Marketing Manager, and Art. He's a local guide, fishes Winston, and he's one of our Drop Jaw ambassadors. So thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for hitting us up and thanks for being here.
Yeah.
So cool. If you guys have never been to Twin Bridges, Montana, this is a quaint little cool town. Has such character. That's the word that keeps coming to mind, is just the character of Twin Bridges.
I think that character, when we talk about the location of the rods all the time, and just I think that this small town feel that we get here in this town shows through our product, through our rods, because it's just, guys like Art and the workers that we have in the back that just literally live this lifestyle that we have here, and it shows in the product.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was saying to Art this morning, I think probably half the town here is in some way tied into the fishing industry, right?
Yeah. Agriculture is our number one, recreation is our number two in the region, and that vast majority of recreation comes from fly fishing. There's other areas of Montana people go for biking and rock climbing and all that, but really people come here for the fishing. So
yeah.
Well, it's the driving force. 200 yards behind the shop here is the Beaverhead River, and then another 10 minutes up is the Big Hole. You drive 10 minutes that way, it's to Jefferson, and a half an hour that way is to Madison. Ruby's just a stone's throw away, so you can't really go any direction out of town without crossing the river. It's the mecca, the place to be. I've worked all around the world and been fortunate enough to guide in cool places, and this is it.
Yeah, you think of fly fishing and in Montana, this is the epicenter, right?
It really
pretty
is.
Much.
Yeah. Because even with the rivers that he just named, one of the biggest things about that is just the diversity that exists in those rivers. You fish each one differently. They all have their own personalities, they all have their own character. And so, Art and I fish a lot together. We just kind of decide what do we want to fish, and then you can go cater to that to the river, and if you want dries on the Ruby or big streamers on the Big Hole or Jeff, you have the option, you can chase it.
Well,
that's awesome.
Wherever I go, it's good. There's no question in my mind about that.
All right, great podcast, guys. Let's go.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's wrap it up.
But really, I know we all love to throw big meat here, but that's one of the coolest things about the sport of fly fishing is there's something for everyone. And I go through it every day with my guests. It's, someone asks me, well, I would really love to throw dries today. And even though I don't necessarily love to do that, we can cater to his needs. We'll go to this river today or that river tomorrow, and let's try this now. And if you hate it, we never have to do it again. That's fine. But it's just so unique. And just the love for the sport that everybody shows coming from a different angle. Just focuses on the same thing. And, never gets old.
No, and then having a rod company here too, how awesome is that? Because R.L. Winston Rod Company, founded in 1929?
In 1929, yeah. It was, and this was in San Francisco, and there was actually, nobody knows like the true origins of when people started building the rods. Because like even right here, this bottom rod was built in 1927. So there were actually rods being produced for that, but it officially became the R.L. Winston Rod Company in 1929 in San Francisco. And it was the name R.L. Winston, which most people don't understand. It's a combination of our two founders, which we see behind us here on the camera, Lou Stoner and Robert Winther. So it's a combination of Robert R, Lou L, and then a combination of the last name Winston, which is where the name came from. And then went through a couple people's hands, and we ended up in Montana in 1976, thanks to Tom Morgan, who was from Ennis, over by the Madison. And then brought the company up here, just knowing what a beautiful trout source and fishing source this was, and we've been here ever since. We actually still have our original factory that we had when we came here, which is where we still make bamboo to the day. And then this facility that we're sitting in right now, we built in the early 90s, and this is where all graphite production takes place.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that rod you mentioned right there, we're going to be taking that out this afternoon, right?
Yeah.
See if we can handle a couple big meat.
I think we need like a Titan sink tip on that, and a couple 3-aught, and the old hook.
Yeah.
Why don't you couldn't have picked a more valuable rod, right?
Right.
So cool. So we just finished a tour of the factory here.
Yeah.
Amazing facility here, guys. And what really, two things that stood out to me. One is how much of it is done by hand.
Absolutely.
I was expecting to see more machining, just more automated process. And it's so cool to see how much of the rods are built by hand, the quality, the craftsmanship that goes into it.
Yeah, no, that's honestly, I think one thing that a lot of people, when they come and take the tour, that's one of the biggest things they walk away with is just, how hands-on the process is. And that's a very conscious decision on our end. When there's, every fly rod throws a fly line, right? It's going to put you on the river, you're going to be fishing it. But we really aspire for that aspirational aspect of fly fishing. And, there's it can be a fine line between a good rod and a great rod, and a great rod and an exceptional rod. And we always want to make that exceptional rod. So in doing so, the details, it's all comes down to those details. And in order to have the oversight that we're looking to have in our rod production, you have to do it that way. And it to some degree, it is somewhat primitive, but it also enhances the character of our rods, the quality of the rods, and it obviously shows in the aesthetic and the final package that you get. So it's pretty cool how the rod comes together.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Chad, for the material that you see how it's cared for right in the very beginning, all the way up through the production process to the shipping, is just as top notch as you could imagine it.
Yeah. Well, and that super top secret room that we went in that, I can't talk about it. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. Cut that out.
No, the last thing I saw was the red laser. And
Yeah, just Men in Black on your
I
put your
can't
glasses
remember
on.
anything. No, so cool. Such an amazing process.
I just love the fact that you can't compete with quality from people that fish. Everybody here is tied into fishing some way, shape, or form, and will probably, after they're done working today, go to the river.
Yeah. A lot of the guys like on our lunch that work on the blank rolling side, it's very common for these guys just to walk behind our buildings and fish the beeve and boats in the parking lots on Fridays, people getting ready for the weekends, and it's definitely an atmosphere that we live here, and it's
everyday life.
Yeah, and people, I think passion is a word that kind of gets thrown around a lot, and I think this company really exemplifies what that actually is. And I think it's the real driver in producing that really exceptional rod, producing a rod that we feel is the best for that category. And I think one of the best things that ever came from this company was actually in our 1996 catalog. And when I first came here, I started just nerding out on these catalogs. But the 1996 catalog, you open up the first page, and this is beautiful pictures as we have always had and everything. but it's Winston may not be your first rod. It may not even be your second rod, but it'll always be the rod you aspire to have. Yep. And I think that's just so true to what we do. I think we have a certain understanding and almost a kind of certain amount of responsibility that we feel to really drive the business. Winston, people constantly talk about our heritage, but that heritage is really built, in 86 years now, of always being in the forefront. We're the ones that, designed the hollow bamboo fly rod, progressive in the glass and graphite game, but then, 15, 16 years ago, introduced this material called Boron, which is used in all of our premium series rods, including our new air rod. And Boron is really the backbone of the rod, and something that we feel is just a superior material that we use and provides benefits that you just can't otherwise achieve without it.
Yeah.
So we call it the Boron advantage, and it's really true what that brings to the rod.
Oh man, we had the opportunity to cast 4 of them today that were just so spot on, crisp, powerful, light. There's so many words you could use to describe it.
And there's different series, and they're all going to produce a different reaction from you. We have a smaller product mix, but a very specific product mix.
Yeah.
We have with the Boron rods, and we produce the LS as our light line series, which is personally my favorite rod, and that's it's a moderate action, fast action rod, but it surprises people. And when you put this rod in their hands, like what it actually does. You hear moderate action, and oh god, no, it's fast action, fast action. No. Just fish this rod, and you'll understand.
And then we have descriptions are crazy. You have to pick one up.
Yeah. And but that's our Lightline series, and that excels. It's a little bit deeper load, but still really crisp. But it's ideal for your dry fly presentations or anything of that sort. The B3X, the Plus, which has been a really great series for us. We introduced that last year.
We casted that one today.
For the salt, and then we also did it in a 5 and 6 trout, which Art fishes a lot. Art fishes the 5-weight nylon. It's an ideal streamer rod anytime you're throwing sink tips. Or we get a lot of wind out here in these big open valleys.
One rod to rule them all. It is.
So
I don't care what kind of wind it is, how big your fly is. The 5-weight plus.
And that's what it's there for. It's it's meant to throw the large. We throw a lot of big chubby Chernobyls here, very wind resistant flies. So you need a rod that's going to throw a tight loop, generate high line speed, and that's the rod to do it. So and then we have the new Air, which is really exciting for us, and that's kind of the whole new platform right now for Winston. It's where we're going. We look at this as just about the same equivalent move as what we did when we introduced Boron.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm happy you guys introduced it after I bought my house instead of before I bought it, because otherwise I would have had no money left. So.
You can use that for a down payment at the bank, right? Here's
Exactly.
So we're streamer junkies, but that new Air, casting that outside today, you could almost convince.
Oh, it's got more than enough.
Well, yeah, but I want to make dry flies now. That was smooth.
No, that's a very unique rod. We're really proud actually with this rod at how it came out and what it's going to do and how we're presenting it to the market. Because really you're opening up a very large sweet spot in this rod. A lot of rods kind of excel in certain areas, and they can do other things, but they really excel in particular areas. This rod, you open up that sweet spot and really excels in a vast multitude of areas. And the reason for that is this new super silica resin system that we're using. It lightens up the rod. It relies more on the natural graphite properties. So it has a similar type of reflection as far as the way the rod bends to, like, say, our B3X series, but it has a much faster rebound in it. So that means that it's going to allow you to get the rod to load at 20 feet and cast delicately with the dry. But it's also going to have the power and response when you start throwing on heavier rig setups, nymph rig setups, streamer setups. And then, of course, when you have that hit that boron, you're putting a supercharger to it, and you're going to have more than enough to put out there. So you're really broadening the avenues of which this rod's going to perform.
So cool. And you could feel it just outside casting.
Yeah, it's unique. It's a unique feeling.
Yeah.
I just actually we introduced that rod at IFTD, and we just did our first consumer event with it, and it was pretty fun just to see the smiles put on faces. Just because it was something that nobody's really anticipating and haven't really felt before. So everybody was pretty excited to cast that and just kind of be like, you just kind of see the shock and awe moment take place on their face. And then you're just like,
Well, that's
there you go.
I kind of see that a lot when I'm out with my guests. I mean, whatever they're fishing, I let them fish their rods, of course, but halfway throughout the day, I say, well, let's try some of these. You know, have you ever cast a Winston, or have you ever fished them? Have you ever tried them? And a lot of people just have this preconceived misconception that Winstons are for dry flies only. It can only do this, or it's like their grandpa's rod. But no, they can do everything, and at the end of the day, they agree that it's just smooth, it's easy, and it's more comfortable. It's like putting on your favorite pair of Sunday pants as opposed to your work pants. I fished all sorts of rods. I have all sorts of rods at home, but the only ones I take out now are Winstons because of the overall comfort and the ease of the day of fishing.
Yeah.
You never have to fight with them. They just always agree with you.
I think a lot of that goes down to when we sit down and we talk about like our rod production and our product mix and what we're looking to go and whatnot. We have a pretty clear goal in mind of what we're looking to accomplish, and that's making a fishing rod, not a casting rod. You know, we want our rods to be versatile, capable of doing a lot, you know, excel in particular areas, but really be the tool for the job. I mean, that's what these rods are tools. And, so, you know, we want to produce just the finest tool when we go out there. It's the right tool for the job.
So we only had one request. I mean, the only thing we could see was just one thing. A blue rod. That was it. And of course, that's heresy at Winston. You can't have a blue rod at Winston. Because you can't. But maybe a blue wrapped.
Just some wraps in that color.
There's always everything is worth a discussion. Everything is worth a discussion, but you know, the rod stays green, and I think that's you know, we get again a lot of comments come through on us on you know, the rods are green, the rods are green. It's like, absolutely. That's what Winston is.
Yeah, it's Winston.
That is Winston. Like, that's right there, green. Yeah. And, you know, even with the air, you know, the conversation again was there. And just, the rod stays green. You know, that's kind of a hashtag that we actually, Adam, a gentleman that works here, him and I work and fish all the time together. And that's kind of our thing. It's just, the rod stays green. At some point, that's important.
Awesome.
You know,
it's tradition.
No reason to change. You know, you're not going to switch the color just to try to sell more rods like a lot of other companies do.
Right.
Every year they come out with pretty much the same rod, change the color, and let's see who else we can sell it to.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, there's no need to, if it ain't broke,
and there's pros and cons to both avenues, but really to us, it's a signature of a standard, and you know, holding that integrity is very important.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, the one thing that was apparent to me in the factory tour today of the shop, and I say factory, but it's actually just a workshop because everybody back there are craftsmen, right?
Yeah.
And you could tell that these people have a passion for what they do. And it's cool to see fly rods being built for fly fishermen by fly fishermen.
Yeah.
You know, and talking to all these people, man, they know their stuff and they know fishing. And so that was really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the total greenhorn at this company. I mean, I've been here 2 years now, almost on the dot. And most people that you talk to back there have been here 10, 15, 20, 25 years plus.
Yeah.
I think the longest we're employer, Gail, has been here 35 years, something of that sort. And so it's pretty cool. I mean, these people really are ingrained in it. And one thing that's really cool with these people too is that you know, all these employees are empowered in their own areas. I mean, they are the experts in it. So you know, they have their own ability to just at any point through production, if they're looking at a rod and they don't feel that it's up to 100% standard, and the standard that we set at Winston, break it, throw it in the garbage can, starting it. So you know, that's something that anybody along any production aspect can take care of, which is pretty cool and kind of a cool avenue of it, you know.
Yeah. Well, you said workshop, and when you're back there, like if I was to see Santa back there, I would just go, that makes sense. Because it is.
It's a workshop.
Yeah, it's a toy factory back there.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big facility. It's a big facility, factory size, but every workstation is a specialized workstation, and it requires an operator person, and it's human performance. It's just
100%.
done by hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
No autopilot. No,
absolutely.
Back there is
Control.
going, what do I do? Everybody, what we saw was just spot on.
Yeah, there's definitely, you know, there's no conveyor belts, no forklifts.
Yeah.
You know, it's just It's pretty astonishing though that going through that process, and when you see the finalized product, going through the process and seeing how it actually gets there, because it really is that hands-on and just, it is segmented, but it's a cool thing, and we're a small company that plays on the world scale, and it takes place in what you just saw.
So Jeff, you touched briefly on your Boron series of rods. One of the first steps in our tour today involved Boron.
Yeah.
And there was stacks of razor blades up there.
Yeah.
Talk about that real quick, and what Boron is, the strength of it, and what all those used razor blades were.
Sure. So boron is boron's an element, but with the process of it is it's tungsten wires measured down to about the 3/1000ths of an inch, laid out, and then the boron gets applied through a process called heat deprivation. It's a lot of heat, a lot of pressure, and so that it comes out in a sheet very similar to graphite. As far as looks, but the purpose of the material is that it's the most strength to size measure, so that not weight, but it's to size. So it's used in the military for like fighter jets. It's used in Formula One race cars where they need an incredibly strong car, but they're concerned about weight and strength ratios. So. That's kind of what the material is, but when it's applied, when you cut a sheet of graphite, it's essentially like cutting a thick stock of paper or like a postcard or something like that.
Yeah.
It's relatively easy to cut. When you cut boron, it sparks. It sparks, and you're going against those tungsten wires. And after about an 18-inch cut of boron, you've pretty much utilized a brand new razor blade. And these are all handmade cuts. So we'll go through coffee buckets of razor blades.
Yeah, the guy up there said he gets 2 cuts per razor blade, and that blade is done.
It's done. I mean, it not just as a dull, you'll actually see like a little hook in it where it is actually cut into the actual blade itself.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah.
So cool.
Crazy.
And so a lot of that with boron, a lot of people ask us, if it's so great, why doesn't anybody else use it or anything of that sort? And there's 2 reasons. One, it's extremely expensive. I believe it's 7 times the cost of graphite, roughly. So it's extremely expensive material. 2 is it's extremely hard to work with. It's extremely hard material to work with. So 2 pretty big deterrents in using it on the rod. But the advantages that we found with it are absolutely substantial. And throughout the process of our rod building, if we feel that there is something that is superior, regardless of cost, we apply it to the product. Whether that's guides, the coating we use on the rods, the cork, anything like that. If it can be better, we will make the step to make it better. And whether we absorb the cost, I think we're very competitive in our pricing for the product that we have in the market. So we'll figure it out though, but we want to make sure that we can truly say this is the best we could produce.
Yeah, it definitely translates into the castability, that cost and the material, because trying it out on the lawn today, I've cast a ton of rods, and that one was just money. It was oily. It was just, and if you're a caster, you get it. But if you're not, then you just think that guy's retarded.
You need to pick up one and try it.
So this is a good time to introduce the new Drop Jaw Flies Boron head.
Let us know when you're ready, man.
No, but so that goes into the butt section of your
boron. Just goes into the butt section, and kind of the best way to that I like to describe it as is it's like putting a supercharger or a turbo in a car. You can have like a little 4-cylinder car and it gets you from point A to point B, right? Mm-hmm. But then let's say, you're getting on the interstate or you're getting on an on-ramp and you accelerate really abruptly. That 4-cylinder just doesn't have necessarily what it takes to really get you there, right?
Yeah.
At least in the pace and the manner that you're going to get there. That's what boron is. So it's like having a supercharger in that car. You take that same 4-cylinder, go throw it onto the freeway, onto an on-ramp, past a semi, you slam that pedal down, you get an abundance of power that kicks in, right?
Yeah.
That's the way boron works. So you just took a 4-cylinder car and made it something completely different. Same way with the rods. We have this notorious Winston feel, and that's a load of the rod. It's a true progressive action. It loads down, you feel it in your hand, it helps with your line control, knowing what's going on, and you give it time without sitting there and looking back.
Yeah.
But so what the boron does, when you're actually just casting 20 feet, you're actually not really utilizing that boron. The rod that progressive action hasn't loaded deep enough to really utilize it. So you're just casting casually. But let's say wind picks up. Let's say you're using a large streamer, like with our deer, and stuff. When that rod loads deep, you need something to ask more of it, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna kick in that boron. It's like kicking in that supercharger, and you're just gonna get absolute abundance of power. And it's rare that if ever you're gonna find a shortage of it. Other than that, you have, of course, the fish fighting properties and lifting properties of it. But it's a pretty cool material, and it allows us to design tapers and actions that you can't otherwise achieve without this material. So when people talk about the Winston feel, it's not, especially in today's day and age, at least in the 15 years, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
There is a specific reason for that we can claim. It's not just this or that, or different taper, different action. The rod feels different than last year's, whatever. No, there is a rhyme and reason to that.
Is it just in the MX series or the beat, or just in the air?
No, it's on all premium. If the rod is green, it has boron.
Oh, okay.
So
it's
if the
in
rod
just
is
about
green,
everything.
It's all, every rod we make except for the Nexus. And we do still make our traditional WTs and LTs by special order only. Other than that, the Nexus is our premium all graphite rod, made the same way that you just saw all of the rods get made today. It just doesn't have the boron applied, essentially. So that's our premium all graphite rod. But any premium rod, we really strive, as I mentioned earlier, to be that premium rod company. Therefore, we try to cater our product to that market. And that's why any premium rod you see from us, which is the LS, X, Plus, Air, THs, microspace, are all going to have boron applied to the butt section.
Nice.
And all to varying degrees.
Yeah. So
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
cool. Innovative. Love it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fun. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of fun going on here at Winston. A lot of excitement, a lot of talk. And I appreciate you guys doing this, because we really are, as you guys see, kind of a small company, but the ability to just kind of further transmit our message is really what we're striving to do. It's a different world.
Yeah.
And for us, we really excel at making rods. And to get that message out there and everything is really what our goals are. So we're excited to do that and get the message to the consumer and the knowledge of the product as to why it is the way it is.
Yeah.
Cool.
One thing, Jeff, before we wrap up too, you guys are a rod company, but now you also offer reels and line as well, right?
Correct. So yes, we just introduced our first line called Energy Lines in a 2 through 6 weight, as well as an 8-weight salt, which we're really excited about. These lines are really cool. We worked with an engineer who actually has developed a process to further put analytics to the action of a rod. And so essentially the number that comes with is potential energy. That return in the rod comes up with a potential energy. So then that gives you mass, and then we look at the way that we want the line to perform. We did this on a presentation base. So then we're able to kind of understand the taper actions and put that mass to it and come up with a line that really works well on all rods, but really excels on a Winston rod.
Nice.
So it's pretty cool.
Cool.
And then now we have Bauer as well. And actually, as we are filming this right now, we are setting up Bauer in the back of the building, and we're happy to have that on board. It's an incredible company. They've ran an incredible brand that has produced beautiful product. And we were really excited about this opportunity just because of the synergies that exist between the two brands. As I continue to mention, how we continue to strive for that, ultimate aspect in the rod. Bauer has done the same thing. They're a very progressive company. The company that came up with the large arbor, their use of the carbon fiber disc drag system. And then, of course, at the outside, you get a beautiful aesthetic package with it.
I was just going to say,
So-
can you make the
colors
real
are most
blue?
important.
Yeah, we do have a blue reel for you. We do have
I
a
was
blue
going
reel
to
for you.
say, blue. I'm down.
Yeah, so you can order cobalt blue, let us know. So we offered a multitude of colors, of course, but they're absolutely beautiful reel, but absolutely a reel that is just absolutely beautiful performance as well.
What about a silver label with blue wraps? Oh, that would be cool.
See, some of these things we keep secret. You live here, you know more than most.
I drank the Kool-Aid. I drink it every night. It's good stuff.
Well, awesome. Congratulations on that, Jeff. And
Yeah, and thank you guys. Appreciate you guys taking the time to come out here. It's perfect.
You bet, man.
Yeah.
It's
So
exciting
cool.
to be here. It's a really cool place.
beautiful country. We got some fishing to do,
Of
so
course.
let's hit it.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thank you guys. Appreciate the time.
Okay, thanks.
All right, friends, thanks for listening to the Drop Jaw Flies podcast. Please send us your feedback. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook and on our website, www.dropjawflies.com. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, or on our YouTube channel. Now get out there and hook a big one and stick 'em solid.